Hey guys, welcome back to Willa DDT. It's your boy Irrelevant. I am here with another deck profile for you, and today we got probably my favorite deck of all time since its release. We got Zephyr, or better as I know it, Z. Alright guys, if you guys don't know what this guy does, his ability is when he swings, he can put back 4 Dawn into the Dawn deck, and he KOs something that is 3 cost or less, and he also gains 1k power. So in a vacuum, that sounds actually extremely expensive and very inefficient, and honestly it is. This is not an ability that you want to be using liberally, because if you do, you're just going to fall behind, you're going to lose a game. If you're using Z's ability, leader ability, before 10 Dawn, chances are you're in a very bad place and you're probably losing that game. So his ability is meant to be combined with other main cards that lower the Dawn or lower the cost of your opponent's cards, so that when you swing, it's a very efficient swing and you are KOing big targets from your opponent. So that's what you want to be using Z's ability for. And that plus 1k is not really something to scoff at either. It does come up a lot. So I think OP4.5 is probably the best time to be playing him, because red is sort of in check because it got locked up by Bandai. Unfortunately, when OP5 comes out, this deck just falls to the wayside, specifically because you just have better decks that do what it does. You know, purple Luffy, red purple Luffy, all those guys ramp up, and they pretty much do what Z does better. But by no means is he going to be bad in OP5. He's just outclassed, and honestly, I could say that about a lot of decks in OP5. Like, if you're not playing the big three, Sakazuki, Enel, and Luffy, you're probably already in a bad spot. But that's besides the point. OP4.5, you have like a solid 3 weeks to play this, and I have had a lot of success with him, and he is just at an all-time high in terms of fun. So let's get right into it. We've already spent a lot of time on the intros. First up, I play 4 of the OP1 ramp ultis, and we'll get into it a bit later. I did try out the Jack, OP1 Jack, the one where it's a 3 cost and you discard to sort of ramp, but I've noticed in the early game, you kind of want your hand advantage so that you can start countering out of attacks from your opponent. You don't want to be taking too much damage early. So ulti lets you, she doesn't have a counter, but when you play her, you don't have to discard a whole card from your hand to ramp, which is why I think she ends up being a better pick. And the lack of counter isn't a big deal because you have tons of targets for discards in this deck, and we'll get to that. As for another ramp card, you have Jean Bart from the starter deck. Instead of him, I did try Miss All Sunday, and I think she's very good. It's just one of those things, if I'm playing ulti, I can't play Miss All Sunday, because that's too many. That's 8 cards in your deck that you add on that don't have counter. So when I switched from Jack to ulti, I also switched from Miss All Sunday to Jean Bart. I do think Miss All Sunday is better, but I can't play her because then I'll just have no cards in my deck that have counter. So he exists for ramp and counter, does the job. Another card that's very slept on, that's very, very good in Z, is actually the Beppo from the starter deck. And the reason for that is his ability is on play, or when he attacks, you get to ramp if you have less Dawn than your opponent. And if you're using Z's ability, Z's leader ability, you probably have less Dawn than your opponent. So he lets you catch up, and he is honestly a very solid add-on to the Z deck. And you usually want to be playing him in the late game, so that when you do swing or use Z's ability, instead of -4, it ends up just being -3. Next up, we have 3 copies of the Kuzan. Of course, if you want, you can play 4. I'm not going to die on that hill, but I just found 3 copies of solid because this guy just is a removal magnet. But it's just one of those things, if he's on the field, they kind of have to remove him, or else they're just going to lose the game. Nothing much to be said. He's pretty much a staple, and his ability is extremely strong and synergizes extremely well with Zephyr and the other ability and the other characters you play in this deck. We'll just move on to some 2K counters. I play 4 of the Barts, 2K, and Blocker. He just does everything that you want him to do. He's very versatile. You can use him as a 2K or you can use him as a blocker. Tashigi, again, standard in Black and Navy decks. Just 2K counter and strong ability. And same thing with Suru. Staple, every Black deck runs those 8 cards. On play, just -2, and a 2K counter, so can't go wrong there. We're going to move on to our blockers. You play for the Borsalinos, again, another standard, not much to say there. There's a reason this card is like $100 a piece, the alt art, and even the normal is like $30 right now. It is that good of a card. 4 cost for a 6K blocker that can't be KO'd by your opponent's effect. There's a reason it's a staple. Then we're going to move on. I play 3 of the Queens, and I also play 4 of the blocker Sabos. So these guys are your blockers and your draw engine. When your draw engine is really what you need in this deck, you really want to be finding the cards that you need to be able to combo off with your leader. So these guys are a blocker. They get to draw, and remember how I mentioned you have tons of cards in your deck that don't have counter? The reason for that is because it's very easy when you play a Sabo, when you play a Queen, you just trash those cards that don't have counter that are dead in your hand. So they work very well, and being able to draw you 2 cards to find your combo pieces, that's extremely important. Move on. 3 Sakazuki. Sakazuki, of course, I've said it once, said multiple times, discarding at 6 Dawn does not feel too bad because you do have cards that don't have counter that are dead in your hand that you just want to get rid of, and you KO a 5 cost or less. And being able to play ulti on curve, on your 3 Dawn curve, and then the next turn you play Sakazuki is such a huge power swing in your favor. You remove a solid unit from your opponent, and now you have a 7K attacker that your opponent has to deal with. Absolutely. So he is really strong in this deck, and if you play him on curve, it's curtains. You are in a fantastic position, so you want to be looking for him. Next up, a little interesting, I do play 3 of the Ishos. 3 Ishos, you can argue it might be too much, maybe. One thing I actually sort of messed around is instead of an Isho, play the 8-drop Kaido, the promo Kaido, the one where at the end of the turn you get a Dawn back active. That is a bit memey, but for Isho, I think he's very important, especially if you're going to be playing him OP5 meta. I've realized a lot of these decks like just stacking cards in their hand, if they can. So first of all, he gets rid of 2 cards from your opponent's hand for free if they have 6 or more. But more importantly, his ability is if he has a Dawn up, he minuses 3 cost from all of your opponent's characters. So he is the secondary boss monster. He's pretty much there if you can't find him. And Kuzan is the big boy, big bad monster that you want to be finding, that you want to be ramping towards. You want to play him on curve, because if he is on the field and he is surrounded by blockers and you have a bunch of blockers on board, the game is probably over. If they don't have a Red Rock, they don't have Sakazuki, leader Sakazuki to deal with this card, your opponent just can't do anything. You won the game pretty much because you drop him down. All of your opponent's costs are -5. Not to mention he KOs a 5 cost or less on play as well. And then your leader, when he swings, he's KOing 8 costs or less for free. And this is what you want to be playing for. The Ishos are there in case you can't find him. It's a solid enough backup, so where if you just don't end up drawing these Kuzans, you do have some sort of late game, consistency, something you can look forward to playing. But, far inferior to the Kuzan. He's just there because he does have a really good on-play ability, and he does what Kuzan does to a lesser degree, sure. But, I mean, there's no substitute for this card. You really want it. He is the bread and butter of Z. You're ramping to get him on the field as soon as possible. and just not letting your opponent play the game anymore, because you're just removing everything on site. And if you get 2 of them, this has happened against a queen deck. I played a Kuzan. I didn't end up using Z's ability, and I played another Kuzan, and you just literally KO. And I KO'd 2 of the 9-drop Yamatos off the field by, first of all, on the on-play Kuzan, and then Z's ability by swinging. So this is pretty much your only game plan, what you're going for, what you're mulliganing for, what you're using, Sabo and Queen for the draw power. You're looking for those cards. And lastly, I just played 3 of these guys. Gum Gum Jet Gatling. The trigger is ramp, and that is not insignificant. That has happened many times for me where I've hit it as a trigger, and I ended up just using the trigger to get that ramp so that I could play my boss monsters faster. And, there's a lot of cards in your deck that don't have any counter. This allows you to get rid of them, make use of them, and give yourself 3k in counter. So overall, that is a quick rundown of the deck. Alright guys, that is the deck profile. I hope you guys liked it. Again, after these red bands, Z is in a really good spot in the OP4.5 meta. He is a lot of fun, just ramping and playing your Kuzans, playing your E-shows, surrounding them with blockers, and using, leader ability. It's just so fun, and it's such an unprecedented late game and such a strong late game that I really do hope you guys give it a try. You don't see Z too much, and I think he is slightly slept on. Again, at this point, he's a little slept on. We'll have to see if there's anything in OP5, something that could be figured out to get him to that next level to start competing with the other A-tier decks. But at this point right now, at the current standing, I definitely think he is up there. I think he is in that high-tier deck, and I hope you guys like what you saw. Please let me know if you've tried Z, or if you have any suggestions on what I should try, take out. Yeah, please do let me know. Like this, comment, subscribe, and let us know what other decks you guys want to see. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys later. Thank you again. Peace.